Hi, this is Mrs. Holmer. Today we're going to be looking at prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells, and we should be able to compare and contrast their characteristics. Now, a cell is the most basic unit that makes up a living thing, and all cells are going to have four things in common. So these are things that are found in any cell, no matter the type or no matter the category they fall into. They are cell membrane, which controls what comes in and out of the cell, the DNA, which is going to control the cell processes, the cytosol, which is the liquid inside of the cell, and finally ribosomes. And those are important because they're going to read the DNA and make the proteins for the cell. So all cells are going to have ribosomes. Now there are millions of different types of cells, but we're going to focus on the two main categories of cells, which are eukaryotic and prokaryotic cells. Now for me, I say "eu" means do. That's because they do enclose their DNA inside of a nucleus. So their DNA is protected by the nucleus. And so if you see a cell and it has a nucleus, automatically we can say that it is a eukaryotic cell. Prokaryotic cells, on the other hand, pro means no. They do not have a nucleus, no nucleus. Their DNA, however, is just free floating in the cytoplasm. So they do have DNA, it's just not found in a nucleus. Another characteristic about eukaryotic cell is that they do have membrane-bound organelles. All of the organelles that we studied in the cells unit, these organelles are typically enclosed with membrane on the outside. For instance, the chloroplast and the mitochondria that we're looking at, these organelles enclose themselves with a membrane. And eukaryotic cells do have these organelles. So they'll have things like the Golgi body, the lysosome, the vacuoles, because they enclose they have membrane-bound organelles. However, prokaryotic cells, pro means no, don't have membrane-bound organelles. In fact, they only have ribosomes because all cells need ribosomes to make proteins from the DNA. So pro, no organelles, you do. They have membrane-bound organelles. A couple other things you need to know. Again, you means do. They do have a nucleus. They do have membrane-bound organelles. But also they are typically large. They're complex. They'll sometimes have a cell wall. Not an animal cell, but maybe a plant cell would have a cell wall or a fungus cell. And they're often part of a multicellular organism, meaning made of more than one cell. Last week, you looked at animal cells versus plant cells. And so these are very complex organisms. They're filled with organelles. They're larger. And so these are eukaryotic cells. On the flip side, a prokaryote or a prokaryotic cell, pro means no nucleus, no membrane-bound organelles. These typically are smaller. They're very simple because they're not crowded by organelles. And they have a cell membrane in addition to a cell wall for added protection. And why they have a cell wall is because these are bacteria which are always unicellular. So they're just one single cell, and so they get added protection from that cell wall. The last thing I want to mention is the endosymbiotic theory. The idea that we have currently, this theory, says that we started with two bacteria that were independent. And one bacteria basically engulfed the other. But after it was engulfed, they started to live together kind of in harmony, and they both benefited from one another. And so eventually that became a eukaryotic cell. So it started as prokaryotic, two prokaryotic cells work together, and eventually that evolved into our eukaryotic cell. And that's the current theory as to how eukaryotic cells came about. All right, that's all I have for prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells. Good luck on your air test.